For everyone who's on the call, welcome. And we're going to be starting in 1 minute, just giving some folks a little more time to join. Hello, I'm Jeff Minsky, Chief Marketing Officer of North America for Invrsion, and welcome to the second of our Full View 3D Commerce Workshop series. We're thrilled to have participants from all over the world and from all types of verticals, including grocery, fashion, home goods, and furnishing. So, buonasera, dobre dien, erev tov, and good afternoon, and let's get started. Invrsion was founded 6 years ago in Milan, Italy. We've been working with some of the top brands like Nestle, Ferrero, Ralph Lauren, PepsiCo, Pomellato, Auchan, Nessalunga for over 6 years on our offerings, which include 3D digitization, the highest quality 3D digital twins that are used for 3D commerce, product spotlights on websites, enhanced advertising units, marketplaces, and our AR and VR ready. We also create hyper realistic retail simulations and real estate and experiential to highlight the relevant environments for those 3D digital twins to be seen in. And a lot of this is done through our award-winning SaaS software solution, Shelf Zone. And I tend to oversimplify Shelf Zone to get people to understand it as the Sims for retail, but it's so much more than that. And it allows you to import planograms to move the retail furniture around very easily. And we'd love to talk to you at a later time about Shelf Zone and all the great stuff it does, because you then export it into VR environments or pixel stream onto laptops and desktops for more immersive shopping experiences for consumers and for customer research. But today we're focused on 3D commerce. Before we go into the full view, our second full view workshop, I want to quickly talk to you about the last one that we did, which was phenomenal. And if you didn't get a chance to see it, we'll be including a link when we send out this presentation to you after the webinar. And you can also access it on our website at invrsion.com in the news and events section. But we were fortunate to have Cynthia Mahler, who is the head of CGI from Walmart, join us and explain her view of 3D commerce and how quickly it's growing. And I loved her quote, "My goal with our partners is I'm going to create as many digital twins as the universe will allow." And that's quite a few digital twins when you think about the SKUs that Walmart has. But it's not just Walmart. Digital twins are really, and 3D commerce is really starting to expand across the entire enterprise. Again, I'm Jeff Minsky, CMO of North America. Joining us today will be Matteo Esposito, our CEO and founder of Invrsion, as well as our special guest for today, Eric Chadwick, who is staff technical artist at Wayfair, and we'll be having a conversation in a couple of minutes about what's going on and all the changes that have been happening over the past few months with new standards for 3D commerce, and we'll be having that conversation momentarily. But first, I want to ask you a question. And this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. If you were to walk into a physical environment and it looks the same as it did 20 or 30 years ago into a brick and mortar store, what would you think? Would you have a feeling of nostalgia of, oh, I remember how this place was? Or would you go, wow, they haven't changed anything in 20 to 30 years? Place has kind of declined. It needs an update. It's entropy, retail entropy. You're looking at a screenshot right now of what Amazon.com looked like back in 2009. And here's a screenshot of what it looks like now. Now, okay, it's a little bit clearer, a little less cluttered, and yet it still looks basically the same. And if you think about what's going on right now in the world of bandwidth. My entire kind of philosophy around the way that we communicate and the way we shop has been that every time there's a giant change in leap in bandwidth, there is a change. There's a natural way that consumers start to engage differently. And so going back to 1994, when all of our digital conversations were text-based and static GIFs, up to the year 2000, when we were up to 5 megabytes per second, streaming audio, high-res photos, streaming video. And today we're around, according to Cisco, around 75 megabytes, where we've got HD video, social video. You're starting to see some live video commerce, which is a welcome change. But for the most part, most of e-commerce, and I might be picking a little bit on Amazon here, but the truth is it's most e-commerce stores, with the exception of the bold few like Wayfair, Lowe's, IKEA, that have embraced 3D images. Most of the way we shop are still scrolling down endless two-dimensional flat photos that only give consumers a partial view, not a full view of the products, to give them the best types of information on how to shop, how to buy. And so we think very strongly that the next evolution of e-commerce is 3D commerce. And so what do I mean when I say 3D commerce? And I want to show you a couple of examples. So let me bear with me while I switch over to the examples. So again, I've shown these examples. I've shown 3D commerce to my wife, my wife's friends, my friends. And I start off by saying, look, this is how you go. You're buying on an e-commerce store. You're looking at a 2D photo. Is that enough? Wouldn't it be better to get the full view and look up, look down, underneath, and be able to zoom in with perfect clarity? Oops, almost a little bit too much perfect clarity there. To look in at every stitch, look at the way that light reflects off the product, just as you would do if you walked in to a brick and mortar store. This is how people shop. This is how they want to shop. And they shouldn't be stuck on the legacy of two-dimensional flat photographies that only give that partial view. Let me show you a couple more examples. Just so you can get a better sense. Here's a bed. And if I want to see how the bed looks, I can just turn it around. You can't do this with a 2D photo. The other part of it that you should know is that all of Invrsion's GLTF files, and GLTF is sort of the standard, kind of the JPEG of 3D images. All of Invrsion's high quality renders are usable not only on desktop, laptop, mobile, but they're also augmented reality ready and virtual reality ready. So it is future-proofed for all devices and ready to go. A couple more to show you the quality and just see how detailed we can get. And I know that I've used a couple of AR apps to be able to see how furniture looks in my house and if I want to move things around. And that is very quickly becoming the norm. The pandemic has very much accelerated consumers' use of and awareness of the apps and the opportunities to use their phone in a more dynamic and more real world way that goes beyond just what they were doing prior to the pandemic. And one of the things that has changed most over the past few years is grocery shopping, or the past 2 years, is the way we shop. And I know that many demographics have embraced e-commerce on their phone and online to a degree that wasn't seen prior to the pandemic. But again, if I'm shopping, I want to be able to see everything. I want to see the reflection on the packaging. I want to make sure that it doesn't look cartoonish. And I also want to be able to see what makes up the, in whichever language that you speak, see the particular elements of the product. And for me in particular, this is obviously not a food product, but my middle daughter has severe sesame allergies and food allergies. So when I'm looking at online shopping, I want to know for certain that the foods that I'm buying don't have the things that will harm my daughter. And so I want to be able to zoom in and look at the packaging, look at the ingredients, look at the allergy warnings, and not have to worry that someone didn't take a clear enough shot of the back of the package. I want full control over that. And that's what 3D commerce brings to the table. So let me go back for a second to the presentation. And 3D commerce is also very, very good business. I want to talk, this was an article from Forbes recently, article called Fashion in 3D. Spatial computing and by extension 3D is changing the way we interact with the world around us in as big a way as mobile phones changed our world 15 years ago. And again, this is not something that's happening in 5 years. It's not something that's happening in 3 years. 5G has rolled out. 5G phones are rolling out. We're close to gig per second downloads in homes now. And so the bandwidth is there. And by the way, we've been able to get our file sizes on our GLTF files down to as low as 5 megabytes, which is absolutely nothing when you talk about loading a web page. So I want you to think about 3 things as we go through the discussions today in the presentation. Number 1 is 3D commerce is going to increase your revenue through increased consumer engagement. And I'll share some stats in a second and research that's been done by various parties in the industry that proves this out. It also increases your efficiency by decreasing the returns. When consumers know what they're buying and they have a better sense of the product they're buying, they're not going to be disappointed when they get home and then take it back and force you to have restocking costs or a need to reshelve a product or pay for it to be returned. And finally, we've also seen that there's increased consumer satisfaction when using 3D commerce. Invrsion partnered with the University of Bologna for a proprietary research study. And in that study, what we found is that consumers had 115% greater positive appreciation of websites that use 3D commerce than websites that were just using 2D flat photography. Now, if you haven't heard of the Kronos Group, let me inform you about it for a second. Kronos is really, truly an amazing, amazing partnership amongst many, many companies, especially some of the top companies in the tech field, including Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and in the retail field, including Wayfair, Lowe's, IKEA, and Target, and many, many others. And Invrsion is proud to be a member of Kronos and an active member. In the 3D commerce group, they just came out with a standard that Eric was very much working on and our team were very, very involved with. And we're going to talk about the 3D commerce standard in our conversation in a second. But if you're not part of Kronos yet and you have any inkling of wanting to be involved with 3D commerce or GLTF files or 3D images, we highly encourage you to look up at the resources at Kronos, join Kronos and join in our attempt to standardize and create a global standard for 3D images. And Kronos ran some research that showed 66% greater engagement on websites and e-commerce sites that use 3D renders, 40% greater conversions, and a 35% decrease in returns to the seller. Again, greater consumer appreciation, greater revenue stream, and more efficient. It just makes business sense now to start transitioning into 3D commerce. Again, quality formats and performance standards. So finally, Invrsion, we're thrilled that some of our clients have called us the gold standard in digital twins and 3D commerce. One of the benefits and the reason we're recognized this way is that we have over 6 years of creating 3D digital twins on behalf of the top brands that I mentioned before. We have leading technical staff from the gaming industry, leading executive and advisory teams from marketing, retail, and CPG. Some of the top brands in the country work with us as advisors. And we have a commitment to quality. I mean, we are based in Milan, so the bar is fairly high when knowing historically the art and design and fashion capital of Europe. And so we really do strive to reach that kind of quality, and it's important for us. And finally, we have proprietary technology. We have worked very closely with the Polytechnic University of Milan. We've created an AI-driven algorithm that helps reduce the digitization time significantly without losing the high quality and standards that we are known for. And we'll be talking more about that in the future. So now I'd like to Formally introduce Matteo Esposito, our CEO, and Eric Chadwick, the Senior Manager, Staff Technical Artist at Wayfair. Eric has over 20 years experience in the gaming and 3D asset creation business. He leads the efforts to develop high quality 3D images and rendering pipelines. And we want to talk about workflow and the process and how Wayfair gets people excited and involved in 3D commerce. And with that, I want to welcome Matteo and Eric to the conversation. Hi, guys.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for the great introduction. Hi, Eric. Thank you for being here with us.
Great. Eric, can you welcome? And I do want to say I'm very grateful that you're here, especially after getting that text this morning where you said the wind was blowing very strong in Boston and you might not have power. And that was a little bit concerning, but we're glad you're here and glad the weather's holding up. So welcome. Eric, give us a little bit of how you decided to become a 3D artist and your background and sort of what you do at Wayfair.
Yeah, so hi, and thanks for having me. It's great to be here with you guys. Yeah, so let's see. I studied illustration in college. Always wanted to do 3D stuff, and got into the games industry where I was an artist working in game development for about 20 years, doing a whole bunch of different kinds of projects, and eventually joined Wayfair as they were starting their 3D team and growing their capability of generating these kind of digital twins of products. And it's so exciting to see how much changes happen and how many challenges there are constantly. I mean, 3D is all about solving puzzles and figuring things out.
Yes.
What I really joined to be a part of. So that's what keeps me going, right? It's a constant puzzler. There's always something to improve on, and technology moves quickly too. So.
Yes. Can you tell us more about Wayfair and where this 3D interest is coming from? So where you started with Wayfair and where are you going in your company?
Yeah, so let's see. I've been at Wayfair for about 4.5 years now. And when I started, we had a photo studio set up to take photos of all these products. And basically what it was is like a warehouse with bays set up, and each bay had a photographer and an interior designer working on a particular product shot and a virtual stage and all that. And they ship all the product to this warehouse. They clean it all up, they prop it in an environment, they light it, all that stuff. And it takes a long time to generate those shots. You get these beautiful images, but it's fairly time consuming and expensive, and you've got to ship all the product to this one location. And then there's the other alternative of actually shooting on site. So you secure a spot in a beautiful home, you clear out all their existing furniture, you put all your new furniture in there, you still got all the thing with shipping and staging, and then you're dependent upon the light because the light changes and you're looking for that golden hour, right? And it means you've only got a short time to shoot in. Whereas with 3D, you've got the full control over, it's always the golden hour of the day, right? It's always the best light. You can get the sun kissing the product and with nice dappled lighting. And so it brings in all that kind of flexibility, but also it brings in kind of economies of scale, and that we can have a lot of people working on individual shots and sharing assets between them. And we can shoot in any kind of architectural set that we want. Basically anything we can dream up, we can generate. And it's really all about generating really appealing images for the customer. We want the customer to be inspired by what they see, but also see something that's achievable and reachable. It's not out of their grasp, it's within their purview of what's possible in their own homes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
I was gonna say, Eric, can you take us back to when you were first trying to sell in, or when Wayfair was first considering starting 3D? I mean, you mentioned the efficiencies, obviously that's a big part of it. But I know a lot of people are out there going, well, what's the pitch? What's the pitch I need to make to be able to sell in 3D to my management and increased use of 3D? How's that done internally?
Yeah, it was kind of a hard sell for some traditional photographers because they're used to working on their feet in front of a live set and working directly with people. Whereas when you're on a computer, you're working directly with the computer. You're still in a team environment, but it's different. But the economy of scale is what it's all about. Like, Wayfair sells thousands of new products each month. And to provide imagery coverage for all of that and optimized images, it's just impossible to generate enough photography for that.
Is the 3D now like an experiment? So it's a field where you are still studying like in an innovation roadmap, or embracing this 3D commerce open standard? You have a clear idea of where are you going, and there is already a plan to say, hey, we have to switch from this number of 2D pictures to this number of 3D objects. If you can tell us.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix, right? It's like we figured out like 3D works, and we figured out what works about 3D and how to get there. But there's always challenges, like I said, like software is constantly changing, hardware is changing. Yeah. New capabilities are coming forth that mean that we can do more collaboration in virtual sets. That's really exciting. We look at things like NVIDIA's Omniverse, which is like a collaborative system where you have a central set and everybody sees into it from their particular devices, and you're all editing the scene together. That's really exciting to us. Yeah, I mean,
so you are thinking to use this kind of technology not only to sell a 3D product into your websites, but also to envision a new way to put together all these products, and using, for example, a post-production in order to create materials. I don't know if I get you.
Yeah, well, I guess Omniverse is really kind of like a creation strategy, right? Like my side of the business at Wayfair is like, how do we improve the pipeline for generating these images and generating 3D models? Yeah. And then on the consumer side, like we look at things like using GLTF and real-time files for room planning. So being able to move things around in real time, and people being able to use AR on their phones in order to see furniture in their space. That's a super powerful and engaging way for people to interact with the content. So it's kind of different. Like Omniverse is really kind of a back-end kind of creation strategy. It's just one of the things we're looking at. But on the consumer side, it's a different experience. It's like, how can we simplify that experience and make it really engaging and easy to interact with? A lot of our customers have never played with 3D before. So just like, Cynthia was saying in the last webinar, we've got to educate the customer and kind of make it a seamless, easy process for them to engage with this content.
Guys, I want to take 1 second because we have a couple of people raising their hand. When you raise, we'll be doing Q&A at the end, so please put your questions into the Q&A section of Zoom, and we will address that in a few minutes. Go ahead, Matteo.
Yes, another question. How are you prioritizing which objects go first in your idea of production? So is there a plan, or you are just going digitizing everything in your inventory?
Yeah, well, it's not an instant process, right? I mean, a lot of us have, modern phones now that can digitize pretty well in 3D, but it's still not up to quality levels in order to create a realistic image, right? So, so really, it's up to us to figure out, what do we think customers are going to want, right? Because there's a lead time to generate these 3D images, just like there is for photography. So all the e-retailers are forecasting ahead to figure out, hey, what's going to be hot in December? What's going to be hot next spring? Which brands are we going to focus on? And then we also work with suppliers and manufacturers to figure out which products they're bringing to market and which ones they want to focus on. So it's a real collaborative kind of process.
And are you working on this internally, or you are also agencies and outsourcers?
Oh yeah, so like a combination of things. We have like an internal team of interior designers and 3D artists and technologists and engineers that are generating tools and assets and imagery. And then we also have contractors that we rely on outside the company to create the huge volume of 3D models that we need in order to meet all the needs of our images. So
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 there
it's
is
really
this
kind of a
3D,
combination of the two.
there is a 3D team, no? So you are also training. I can imagine you are training your employees. How can you be sure to be proficient and following this kind of technology that is changing every day? So how can you manage the change within your team?
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? When I came on, we had started a 3-month program to kind of train 3D artists and interior designers how to use 3D software. So we came up with this kind of a 3-month system where we teach from ground zero, what is 3D software? How do you use it? How do you model a product? How do you light it? How do you do the camera work? All those stages of generating imagery. So that lets us focus on, when we're interviewing, on just finding the raw talent, like people that we know are really engaged and really have a good artistic eye, but may not know our particular tools and software. Well, we'll bring them in and train them. And we've gotten a lot of great talent that way.
Yes, there is also a difference between rendering and real-time rendering. So when you are moving into into this world of real-time, you discover that you need a lot of different competencies, different technologies. So it's not easy, no? And can you share also some information, if you can, about the impact that you are waiting for, talking about 3D commerce? So you have already some information about what you are expecting from implementing 3D commerce in your website or not?
Yeah, so we've been a part of the 3D commerce group in Kronos for about, gosh, since before I started working here. And then I joined in pretty much as soon as I joined. But we're also in the 3D formats working group, which is all about the GLTF format itself and what are the new material capabilities. So that's something I'm keenly interested in, is the material side of thing and how can we improve the way things are rendered. But you know, it's a gradual process of how do we improve rendering across the board, because our models are not seen just by our own renderer, but they're also seen on advertising websites, on banner ads, and Facebook and Google searches, Microsoft, and they're all over the place. So that's one of the key concerns that we have in 3D commerce, and it's shared by a lot of other e-commerce people, is how do we make sure that our models look the same when you see them in a search result versus you see them on our website?
Yes, and I don't know, I don't have a prediction on when all the e-commerce will move into the 3D, but it's clear that, for example, we were talking with Cynthia about Google, which is working to show the products within the search engine. So everything is going to change. We are talking a lot about metaverse. So if you have one, what's your prediction about this big change? How many years we have to wait to see a 3D internet? It's a joke,
it's
but
already there, right? It's not that it's hidden away. It's like, how pervasive is it going to be, right? Like, I kind of think back to the origin story for Wayfair, which was started in 2002 or so, and at the start there were no images. It was all text-based searching, and bit by bit they started to add images of the products and found that really helped customers understand what they're seeing. Until today, it's primarily image-based, right? And the text is secondary. So, and that's been 20 years, probably, a bit shorter, because it's, years ago it was images. So, I don't know what the break-even point is. I know that everybody owns now really good tech as part of their personal tech that they own. So it's pretty easy to generate high-quality content. I think the hardest part is just the scale of the issue, and the fact that it's.
So I had other two questions for you. One is about the quality, and the other one is about scaling. So how do you manage the quality versus the performance now? So what's your bar now? Where is your bar? And what do you think about the scalability? Because in Invrsion, we are a small company, but we are working hard to find a way to scale on big numbers, lowering the time and the cost of the product digitization through a lot of ideas and patent, and we are putting all this stuff together to find a way to simplify and to move also into the AI to have, for example, quicker pipelines to shoot the products and to have a quick prototype of what we have to build in 3D in order to lower the time of the production. So where is your bar in the quality versus performance, and what do you think about the scalability, and also about the industry? So who is the owner of this digitization process, the industry, the retailer, both? What do you think about that?
Yeah, scaling is hard, right? That's what we found. That it's difficult. We all want really high quality. So we found that pre-rendering the images, like the image in the background here is a 3D image, and that's generated in, an offline ray traced rendering system, which takes, half an hour to render. So
yeah.
That's not interactive in real time, but it creates a really high quality image that lets a customer know that this is what they're getting, and they're not going to be prompted to return because they're getting something that's really accurate to what the real product is. But with real time, it's harder because there are a lot of challenges, technical challenges to getting that product to look really good. And the problem there is one of time, right? I can spend, a month on one model and make it really awesome, but that's just one product. So how can I do that across my whole catalog? And that's something we're actively working towards. And that's part of what makes the Kronos Group consortium really helpful, because all of these e-commerce giants are coming together and we're all facing the same problems. And we all know that we don't want to differentiate on terms of the technology, because the technology doesn't matter to the end customer. They don't care how it was made. They just want to see it.
The final result, yeah.
Right, and so we can differentiate other things like price points and the delivery experience and all that kind of stuff. But the technology stuff, we want to be able to solve that. So that's something that we're actively working on, and everyone's working on together.
Yes, it's our most important goal, to find the way to scale and to maintain the quality.
And one other point with that too is that when we look at how do people interact with live real-time 3D models, the AR experience, augmented reality through your phone, of being able to look at your space and see a 3D model in your space is super powerful. And the biggest reason that we've seen that that's powerful is, hey, does it fit, right? If I'm getting a new couch and it's 10 feet long, but my space is really only 8 feet wide, well, it's not going to fit. So that's a big driver. So it's not so much for us yet what the image quality is like, because people rely on the pre-rendered images and the photographs to provide that input. But for the purchase decision, it's about what are the dimensions? How does it fit? And we want to get to a point where visually it's all the same quality as the pre-rendered stuff, and people can base their purchase decision on a live real-time model.
Eric, can you actually show us? Can you actually show us, and we don't have time about for like one or two, but if you had some examples that you wanted to share, if we could take a look.
Yeah, let me show you. So let's see, let's hide this thing out of the way. Yeah, so this is one of the models that I've generated as part of the 3D commerce and 3D formats. And this is a stained glass lamp. And we wanted to solve how we do transparency in products, how we do glass and amber and those kinds of things. And this was a demonstration to figure out, well, what are the challenges that we have to deal with in terms of transparency? And as you see, we get like really good refractions and kind of the dazzle that you get with these hanging beads. But also we get with stained glass, it has kind of a rough transparency. It's like things are a little bit blurry behind it. So you see there are light bulbs and they kind of, you can see them behind the product. The other thing that we wanted to test out with this model is how does it work with variations? So for example, if If it's a lamp, the functionality for the customer is, well, what does it look like when it's on versus off? And how do we demonstrate that in 3D? And it still demonstrates kind of the way that the glass has translucency behind it, and so do the gems. And that's really important for figuring out standards of how do we generate this content, and how do all the e-commerce companies work together to figure out what's the optimal way to generate these kind of effects.
And I remember that I saw this asset within other Kronos group presentations, and it's amazing how much is light, no? So it's very light. How many megabytes is?
Oh yeah, so this also, we also use this asset as a test for new texture compression.
Exactly, I remember the presentation.
Yeah, so KTX2 was the format.
KTX.
And it basically means that we can compress this asset to be the same size as JPEGs and PNG textures, but it also stays compressed in texture memory when it's loaded on the GPU of the consumer's device. So that means then we can have multiple of these models in a scene, all real-time models, and it doesn't, like, you know, burn the device up. So that's a key one. Let me show another one here. So this one is all about sheen, which is a effect for velvet and other kinds of fabrics, where you see the edges get brighter when they're edge on to the viewer, and that creates that kind of soft look for fabrics. And that's something that's keen for us. We have a lot of fabric-based products, and how do we generate that feeling that you're looking at something that is soft, because customers don't have a chance in a lot of these e-commerce sites to ever physically touch the product. So how can we kind of get that feeling across? And then the other thing this shows is variance. So this comes in multiple colors, this piece. How do we show those pieces in a really efficient way so that people can see all those colors and see, oh, how they look from different angles and close up and far away. So this was another test asset basically to prove out that production methodology.
Terrific. It looks really amazing. Again, it looks so realistic. And again, the materials, I can even see where my kids would leave their handprints all over it. So that's phenomenal. We are kind of running out of time. I do want to ask before we end this, Eric, where do you see the future? What's the next step that you see over the next 6 months that's going to take us even one step closer to Wayfair being all 3D images at one point?
Yeah, so I think, you know, augmented reality, and everyone keeps talking about the metaverse and XR and VR. Those things are all going to keep increasing in penetration in the market. And having all these virtual goods is really important to kind of get there. I think as the technology improves, more people are going to be looking through AR devices of the world, and people are going to be buying content that's specifically for AR use. Like, we already see people buying NFT goods that are virtual goods, like a virtual dress someone bought for, I think, around $5,000. It's only viewable in 3D, right? But I can see, just like people buy stuff, skins for Fortnite, they'll buy skins for their actual physical person that are only viewable in VR and AR. So, you know, all of these technology things that we're working on kind of head us toward that goal of being able to accurately reproduce these products in 3D.
Yeah, I think in your industry, AR is the killer application, no? But what do you think about virtual reality personally? Are you a metaverse surfer?
Once you put it on, and once you put on a VR headset and you experience that, it's a changing event. You really see that you're in the space. You know, we have a room planner app that basically puts these models in a 3D room, and you can either be above it like it's a dollhouse and arranging things, or you can step inside and actually feel what it's like to look around in that room. And that's a really powerful experience. I think that's really important for people to get a sense of their space.
Yeah, I agree.
So Matteo, Eric, thank you for the conversation. I want to quickly, hold on, I'll get back.
Thank you, Eric.
I want to thank everyone for joining today. If you want to join the 3D commerce era, if you want more information about Invrsion or have more questions for Eric, please feel free to send them to invrsion@invrsion.com. Before we leave, because it would be remiss on this particular week to ignore the holiday coming up. 1 second. And we want to wish you all a happy Halloween. Discover our frighteningly realistic 3D at Invrsion, and it's like we like to say, twin or treat, and it's both, because having digital twins is a treat. So again, thank you very much for everyone for attending today. You will get a copy of the presentation emailed to you. As we mentioned, there will be links to be able to rewatch this webinar, as well as the first one that we did with Cynthia. We wish everyone a great week, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely
Thank you,
cool.
Eric.
Yeah, nice model. That looks awesome.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.